Thank you, Ian. That's James Conor Patterson, by the way, not James Patterson, in case people thought they were coming to see the crime writer. Sorry to disappoint. It's no secret that Kieran Carson was a huge influence on my development as a writer and acted as a mentor not only to me but to many other Irish poets producing work today. And so it feels fated in some small way that I should be up here reading exactly 30 years since Kieran won the inaugural T.S. Eliot Prize in 1993 and set the standard for so many of us who came after him. So in that spirit, I'm going to begin with a poem dedicated to Kieran Carson. It's called Prosthetics. Granted, old Jim was a bit of a space cadet. And granted, that at the end he became so demented, the cops picked him up at 2 a.m, huddled freezing beneath a blackthorn bush. But for a while there, the neighbourhood had a character. Someone who'd perch in his paint-covered kitchen chair overlooking the resi and invite you up to the garage for a Miller. He'd call you over in your Christian Brothers uniform, for all the world looking like a man still in his prime. There was nothing sinister in this. Jim was older than the Queen and would sometimes refer to his own wife as Hitler. In fact, during the war, he lost a leg after one of his own squashed it with a tank. 2 weeks in a field hospital in El Alamein before the leg was chopped, and he was sent back home to live a good-natured life, showing lads like me the prosthetic which he would tap with a shillelagh. Jim was my first Protestant friend, though I never managed to make it to the funeral. What puts me in mind of him is a poem written by another friend about a man he knew called Horse Boyle. Horse flew missions over Dresden during the war and had finished out his days making a kind of prosthetic of the caravan he lived in out beyond Carrick. By prosthetic, of course, I mean an extension of himself, which all homes are, and which in this case is described by my friend as being encroached upon by baroque pyramids of empty baked bean tins, rusts, and ochres. This, in turn, puts me in mind of my own phantom limb and whether I'd be expected to extol the virtues of friends and family, none of them, after all, cohering to an idea of oneself as an extension, and even if they did, are somewhat diminished by the suggestion that they are. Prosthetics require something to have been lost in the first place, and since my life has essentially been one long, steady process of accumulation up to now, each loss found becomes something else entirely, which is another way of saying that unexpected loss leads to unexpected gain, which is another way of saying, Mohara, that of the gains you've given me, I now give back to you in the form of an outstretched imitation of the original. As you can tell, I'm in a sentimental kind of mood tonight. I hope that doesn't detract from the selection of poems here, most of which are about people very dear to me. The second of those poems is about my granny. It's called On Returning from the Hospital, My Granny adjusted the horn of her hearing aid so that the frequency shifted, then screeched, then silence descended through an open window as though birds had landed or flowers settled in the sill. Fair City prattled on mute in the background. A distant kettle popped in the larder. And what was it you wanted to ask me, bandied between us for several moments, though I could think of nothing? An inquiry into the new priest, perhaps, or an anecdote about her dad's time at Ypres, whereupon, settling herself into the wing-back seat that was my granda's, she gave an account of what it was like to fly. find my place here. Postscript. That we could walk hand in hand down a road that neither takes us home nor ends, nor makes us tired to continue. That the significance of it, I mean to say, hits me freshly each time it dissipates, like breath freed from a pride sarcophagus, or the slipped refrain of an air caught in a bar, or on a bus, or in a bookshop behind the stacks of YA and SF, is a possibility which leaves me both terrified and elated, replacing face after face until everyone's face is yours. London poem, in which we bully home into coherence, in which rooms distend with pizza boxes, HDMI cables, glasses of Pinot Grigio, and libraries of unreturned library books, in which measures of expatriation becomes a handbook for negotiating the tube. Language is my home alive other than in speech, in which articulation moves through the ingredients culled from our shopping list: garlic, chocolate, regular white bread, in which nourishment is spread mouth to mouth, skin to skin, and our salt rebuff to England has less to do with speech and more the small republic sprawled across our mattress. And I'll leave you with a poem which isn't so sentimental. This is based on a story, or rather an urban legend, told to me by my granda about a quarry in my hometown of Newry, where I grew up, where during his childhood people used to swim, and the local urban legend or the rumour or whatever you want to call it was that this swim hole was bottomless. And so this poem imagines what that actually would have been like if it was bottomless. It's called The Drowning. The story then became like this. He jumped in off a Clydesdale horse, then vanished like Eurydice beneath the sawdust, oil and gorse. His friends went looking for him there, sun-scorched in their wool knit pants, beneath the rusted excavator, up from High Street and the manse. They brought corned beef and bits of soda, wrapped up in a greaseproof square. They took some chocolate from the soldiers, some Darcy's kept in earthenware, and checked the crushers filled with ashlar, the Morris tipper and the track. Decided they would jump in also when they failed to bring him back. And so the parents brought their hammers, bits of sheathing, casing nails, and built a mast from railway sleepers, darning suntans for their sails, and built a boat to cross the quarry, diving where their kids went in, and followed them into the hollow, which locals said had no bottom. And so the mayor dived for the parents, worried for his yearly vote, and so the council braved the currents for their leader's anecdote, and then the doctors and the soldiers, followed by the entire town, until at last they filled the swim hole and all of us were underground. Thank you.